Welcome to the Farming Without the Bank podcast, the show with a no BS approach to money, hosted by a farm strategy expert and authorized IBC practitioner. Join us as we get real and expose the flaws of traditional financial institutions in order to help farmers take control of their finances, create peace of mind, grow their wealth, and leave a legacy. Now, here's your host, Mary Jo Ehrman.
Hello, and welcome back to the podcast. Thank you very much for being here. All right, today we are going to talk about why people think I'm an idiot when I suggest custom farming. And so I doubt that it is any of you, but some of you may have said it to yourself. But the world of social media and the TikTokers think I'm a moron. So let's talk about why that is. And they had a lot of the same similar kind of comments. There were only 3 people on this post that we did in TikTok that said, oh, hey, custom farming is not so bad. Until I replied to a couple of these guys and I tagged custom farming. And now there's a bunch of guys custom farming that are jumping in and saying, hey, I don't know why this would be a bad thing. But I want to look at the thought process, because regardless if custom farming is good or not, the thought process behind why people think it's not is somewhat broken. And it does not matter what you do. I've recently been listening to Barn Talk, and they had Jesse Bounds on there. And the two of them, he's doing some sort of agriculture coaching or something. And it's interesting to listen to him and the Barn Talk guys, Torque and Sawyer, both say, hey, the thought process in the farming industry is broken. We are very negative thinkers. We think things can't change. We're not looking at new stuff. We think that we're special. And I say that all that stuff at the same time, right? That farmers come to me and say, oh, I'm a very special case. This is probably something you've never seen before. When in fact, I have seen it before, and I have seen it multiple times before. How people run their organization, and if there's families involved, they really think that they're special. And you are special, but the way you're running it is not special. It's not different than what anybody else is doing. And it's funny because sometimes I'll have somebody say, oh, so you've done this before. I'm like, yeah, most of you have all the same problems. And guess what? Farmers have the same issues as non-farmers. If you are running a business, you are going to have a lot of those same challenges. And so let's just talk about them, and let's talk about our mindset a little bit about how to think about some of these things differently. And the other day I just thought about this. Nelson always said, rethink your thinking. And I wonder if we haven't stopped thinking. We have all the information we need at our fingertips, which is amazing. But I do think that it has caused some of us to actually stop thinking. That we're not doing the research either then. But a lot of us are not critical thinkers. And some of that is just by nature. That is not some people's gift. But having this mindset of that's all you can do and you've arrived and you know everything, that is not natural. That is something that you have most likely heard forever. And so if you have any of these 7 things that I'm going to talk about, if you have any of those complaints or any of those comebacks for me and say, well, that's not going to work because, then email me and let me know, like, why? Why am I wrong? And what have I not thought of? Because I love to be the critical thinker and going, okay, what are all the possible downsides of this? I am usually on my podcast giving you guys ideas of what you can do to make money that I'm seeing other people do. I'm not dreaming the majority of this stuff up. I am actually meeting with clients that are doing it, and I'm seeing their numbers, and it's working amazingly. And so I just want to share it with you. And then a lot of times people will come back and say that doesn't work. Well, but I've seen multiple people doing it and it's working. So why isn't it working? It's just got to be the fact that you're not running it correctly. And so let's talk about it. All right. The first one that a lot of people talked about was wearing out their equipment. And so I'm not going to go buy equipment and then use that equipment to custom farm because I'm not going to wear my equipment out on somebody else's land. So let's just look at that a couple of ways. What if you were leasing that land and you planted the crop with your equipment? Would it then be okay? Most of you would say, oh yeah, absolutely. It was mine. No, the land's still not yours. The land is still somebody else's. You're leasing it. And so you are now wearing out your equipment on somebody else's land. It's just your crop that you planted. Why? If you're buying a piece of equipment and you don't want to wear it out, I am going to assume, and you know what assuming does, but I am going to assume that that means that you're going to have that piece of equipment for 25 years and you are never going to farm any more than what you are doing right now. Because if you do, you're going to wear out your piece of equipment and you're not going to be able to have it for 25 years. So I hope to goodness that if you say that you don't ever plan to expand because now you have worn out your equipment. Think about this. Equipment is meant to be used. So if we have equipment and we could be custom farming and making some extra money and we're not doing that because we're worried about wearing out our equipment, that equipment is just sitting and depreciating. It's still going to rust. It's still going to have issues. You guys, you know this better than I do. You have a piece of equipment and you've retired it and you never use it again, but when you retired it, it was still running. Try to go start that piece of equipment 15 years later. I mean, you're going to just let it sit? You're going to not actually use it to make money? That doesn't even make sense. That would be like saying, well, I have an excavating company, but I don't want to use it for things that are not my excavating jobs because that's going to wear out my piece of equipment. Or a rental company, they rent equipment and they rent it at the price they need to continue to make those repairs. So I just didn't, that one I'm having a really, really hard time with because I don't see how it matters. If I use the equipment that I bought to go custom work and that custom work then allows me to make the payment for my piece of equipment and the money off of my operation is profit. Because essentially, somebody else is paying for that. I don't get it. I have had other people say there's no money in it. And so if there isn't money in it, then don't do it or charge accordingly. A lot of people were saying, well, we can't charge what we need for custom rates, to pay for the piece of equipment today. Well, one guy said, I have really good used equipment, so those custom rates I actually make money custom farming. Now, if you have a brand new piece of equipment because you're a custom harvester or something, it's a business, right? Me custom farming for the neighbor guy is no different than a custom harvester coming in and doing it as a business. The rate has to be enough to cover your expenses. I don't care if you're the neighbor or if you are a legitimate custom harvesting business or a legitimate custom business, those rates need to be correct. If nobody wants to pay them, then you don't do the work for them. Then they can go do it themselves. But what a lot of people don't understand is that rate has to be that high because you have repairs, you have fuel, you have all the maintenance that the guy that's hiring it out doesn't have to do. And so that too, run it like a business. And then a lot of people also said, number 3, a lot of people also said, well, we're not going to get paid because the only guys hiring it done are broke. That is such a bunch of BS. Come on, people. Really? That's the best you got for me? You're going to always find somebody that doesn't want to pay. That is going to happen. How many people out there hire out for custom work? I can't tell you how many clients I have. It's a ton of clients I have that do custom work and they get paid. I have a ton of clients that are doing custom grazing and they get paid. And I've talked to, I don't know, maybe a handful out of thousands of clients. I've talked to maybe a handful that have gotten screwed. But at the end of the day, that's minor. So what are we doing? We're focusing on the negative And we are not going to take the risk because we think it's too much risk that we won't get paid. Do your due diligence, have a contract, talk to the people that have done work for them before. And it's not always the people that are broke. There are a lot of people that own ground because they have an off the farm job, right? They have a great off the farm job or they own a very lucrative business and they own ground. They just don't have time to farm it. And so you need someone to do some custom farming for you. You got the guy next door that's got all the equipment. Why would you not just have him custom farm it? And so to think that these people are broke, like it's just the most asinine thought process. And so again, some of this is get out of your county. When was the last time you went to a convention or a conference or a business meeting or some business coaching? Like, I don't even know this dude that was on Barn Talk, Jesse Bounds. I don't even know the guy, but I am super excited when he gets his training program all settled in and dialed in, because it doesn't sound like that's happening yet. But when he gets that all dialed in, it is going to be something that y'all should be going to, because we're losing money because we're not paying attention to numbers. We're not looking at what other people are doing around the country. People think that I am an idiot, but yet I talk to people from corner to corner of this country. I have clients in, I don't know, like 40 some states, and they're all doing different things. People always go, well, what's a large farm? Well, a large farm is going to depend on where we're farming. If we're farming in North Dakota, a large farm is going to be 10, 15,000 acres, right? A decent sized farm is going to be 5,000. A hobby farm is going to be like 500 or 600. If you go south, a large operation is going to be 8 to 1,000 acres. That's a large operation. If you're over in the mountains, right? And you're in Alabama, Georgia, the Carolinas, whatever, that's large operations because there's so many hills and trees and whatever. I had to learn all that stuff. And so people just think of their county and they don't think outside of that because they've never left. What are other people doing? And farmers they are notorious for not wanting to leave the farm and go anywhere. Oh my God, we can't. We got stuff to do. You can't afford not to. Can you imagine how much I could teach you if I never talked to colleagues, if I never had any type of education, business, coaching, anything like that? Can you imagine? I would have 5 words to say to you and I would not be as valuable as I am. Not even close to as valuable as I am. I would just be watching people from the outside being judgy Judy over here. No, open your mind. Listen to what people are doing. You don't have to do it. You just have to watch and pay attention. Okay, number 4. They're worried about what the landowners are going to say. What if I don't do a good enough job? What if I don't get there soon enough? Whatever. That's a concern, but it's the same kind of concern as I'm not going to get paid. You are going to work for people that are going to be hard to please. There is no question. That's going to happen. But is it a big enough concern that it should stop you? No, I don't believe that it is. Because you're going to find out along the way there are amazing people, and then there are people that aren't. And if someone is being judgy and they want it done to more perfection, is that a you problem or is that a them problem? Do you really know what you're doing? Are they giving you tips to know? Like, it just is going to depend, right? I just got off the phone with a client that he's managing a ranch, but the guy that he's managing the farm and ranch for, because part of it's a farm, that guy's a farmer and he's the rancher. And so this guy is trying to tell him what to do with cattle, but he's only had cattle for 5 years of his life. The other guy has worked with cattle for 10, 15 years. And so now all of a sudden, the owner thinks that he knows everything because he is the owner. No, figure it out, work together, learn from each other, right? He's like, I'm willing to learn on the farming side because I don't know farming. Admit where your strengths are and take the constructive criticism. It's not all a bad thing. All right. This works 40 years ago, but it doesn't work today because of cost of equipment. I don't know why that would matter. Yes, I know you all think I am so detached, but when I look at inflation, farming inflation, if I run the numbers, inflation on farm equipment is actually less than inflation on housing. Okay. And so inflation on land is actually less than inflation on housing. And I get that there's inflation there. But to say that it doesn't work today is silly because I have tons and tons of people that are doing it and making money. In fact, the gentleman I just got off the phone with that is working for somebody, that guy does nothing but custom haying. And he has bought 3 ranches doing that. So there's that. You have to acquire the equipment first. Well, no, you know what? Of course, you have to acquire the equipment first. And so if you have a down payment for that equipment, you can finance the rest of it. A lot of people do that, and then the custom work makes the payment. You don't have to pay cash for the equipment. That's like saying, well, I can't have a rental property unless I pay cash for it. Really? No, you just need the down payment. Somebody else will pay for that, right? You just have to make sure that you're hustling because somebody else said, well, that doesn't work in every area. There's not always work. And work doesn't just drop. This is what they said. Work doesn't just drop out of the sky, lady. Oh, yeah. I thought it did. Silly me. Of course it doesn't drop out of the sky. You got to hustle. You got to talk to people. You can't just go buy your piece of equipment and hope to God somebody sees it driving by and say, hey, do you want to do some custom work for me? That's never going to happen. Let's talk about who's detached here. So you're going to have to hustle to find the work. In some areas, yeah, you might be so remote that there isn't anything. You might not have made the connection. I'm not saying it's going to absolutely work every single time, but there are a lot of people that are doing it. Don't give up the hope. Talk to people before you acquire the equipment. But if you're going to buy the equipment anyway, why would you not say, I'm going to custom farm? And I actually have talked to quite a few people that they work off the farm. They bought equipment, say a sprayer, for example, because that's usually the most common. So they bought a sprayer and they have enough spraying jobs that is allowing them to quit their off the farm job so that they can farm full time, regardless if it's custom farming or not. But now they can farm full time. And so that is absolutely fantastic if that is something that you are able to do. And there are people doing it. So those were the common objectives to that. And I am sure that people listen to my podcast and go, Mary Jo, you are living in la la land. You know, some guy actually said, you really think you know it all sitting behind your desk? And I was very nice. And I replied to him and said, well, that's funny because you're hiding behind your phone in a private account. Yeah, I thought that was a nice comment because I could have been ugly. But I thought I'd take the high road. And I know social media is just full of a bunch of trolls that are sitting on their phone, sitting on their computer, not working when they could be working and making money. And the majority of the people on there are not looking to get better. They are looking to cry and sit in their negativity. But I thought that this was still a really good topic to talk about just because it's going to challenge our thought process on every single one of those. And I say this all the time. You have to stop saying, I can't do that. And you have to start asking, how can I? If I want something, how can I do it? If I want a piece of equipment, what do I need to do to pay for that? Is custom work a piece of that? If I want a farm or I want a ranch, how can we get that instead of, nope, there's just no way, it's impossible. If you say it's impossible, your brain is going to shut down on you and you are not going to think of any solutions, okay? And some of you are just not solution thinkers. It's just not a thing. I've recently been studying this personality test called the Working Genius. And there are people that I am surrounded with that I have a working genius of what they call invention. I call it problem solving. I have ideas that just do not stop. They just come in droves. And then if I am with somebody else that is also an idea person, it's even worse because then the talking of it helps for me. And so I just naturally do that, but I've recently found out that some people don't naturally do that. It is actually a frustration for them. And so if you're that person that you're like, gosh, I really want this and I don't want to be negative about it, go find the person with ideas. You're going to have to implement the idea, but go find the person with the ideas, and then you get to decide if you like those ideas or not. But you have to do your due diligence on the idea. You can't just say, oh, that doesn't work. And so many of us just want to immediately say, nope, that doesn't work. No, you're an idiot, whatever. It's no different than when you go out and say, oh, look, I bought some whole life insurance and this infinite banking concept is amazing. And they're like, you're an idiot. Do you think that you're an idiot? No, you're not. It's just that they're not educated. And it's the same thing with all of this other stuff. I have such a variety of people that I have talked to over the years that it just sounds unbelievable that I'm always here saying it's working for this person, it's working for that person. And then a lot of people will say, well, that doesn't work in our area. Really? Are we going to do that? Is that the game we're going to play? So anyway, I wanted to share that. I wanted to challenge your thought process a little bit. Let me know if you have comments, questions, concerns. MaryJo@withoutthebank.com, or you can give me a call, themjhotline.com. Just hit record. You don't even have to type. Okay, let me know if you need me. Otherwise, you guys have a fantastic rest of your day.
Thanks for listening to the Farming Without the Bank podcast. We hope today's episode has inspired you to take control of your finances in new ways. Don't forget to check out our website, farmingwithoutthebank.com, and engage with us on our Facebook page, Farming Without the Bank. Join us next week as we smash more financial myths and empower you to accomplish your financial goals.